In 1913, Jung wrote about what he called the most dangerous discovery of his entire career. A rare ability that only a few people carry, the ability to see what others can't. Not visions, not fantasies, but the hidden layers that most people refuse to admit. Lies hidden under polite words, micro-expressions that betray the truth, the silent tension in a room that no one else dares to notice. And maybe this is your reality. You walk into a place and, before anyone says a word, you already feel the atmosphere shift. You sense the storm before the clouds even form. You predict outcomes too early, and instead of recognition, you get punished, accused of being negative, dramatic, too much. Meanwhile, everyone else walks away light, and you carry the invisible weight home. Jung warned, this gift is a double-edged sword. Without integration, it consumes you, draining your peace, isolating you, pushing you closer to collapse. But when it's understood, it becomes your greatest advantage. Today, I'll reveal the dark price of seeing what others can't, and the practical steps to protect your mind, safeguard your relationships, and turn this rare sensitivity into power. Have you ever wondered why you come home shattered after moments that were supposed to be light? Everyone else laughs, jokes, and moves on, while you return with a body that feels like it's carrying invisible stones. That's because you don't just hear words, you absorb atmospheres. You sense what isn't being said, and it lingers inside you until it's hard to tell what belongs to you and what you picked up from everyone else. This isn't ordinary. Most people drift through life blindfolded. But you don't get that choice. You notice the hesitation in someone's tone, the eyes that look away too quickly, the smile that doesn't reach the skin. Before the words even leave their lips, you already know what's hiding behind them. It feels like a secret ability, but one that comes at a price no one else sees. Jung described this exact danger in one of his patients more than a century ago. At first, she seemed like just another sensitive soul. But her ability nearly broke her. Without integration, heightened perception turns toxic. It corrodes from the inside. Insomnia, confusion, self-doubt, the constant fear that maybe you're losing it. It's like carrying a detector so sensitive that it blares at every spark, even when others insist there's nothing there. This gift usually shows up in 4 distinct ways. The intuitive feeling type absorbs moods and leaves encounters completely drained. The intuitive thinking type predicts endings too soon and pays for speaking before others are ready. The intuitive sensing type feels in their own body the illness or tension someone else hides. And the pure intuitive gets overwhelmed, paralyzed by a flood of signals they can't put into words. Picture this. You sit through a dinner where nothing dramatic happens. Yet when you get home, your chest feels heavy, your mind won't rest, and it's as if you cleaned up the emotional mess of the whole evening without anyone noticing. That's not weakness, that's the hidden tax of perceiving too much. Few understand it, and fewer still can carry it. Seeing is power, yes, but unmanaged, it turns into destruction. That's why I want you to pause for a moment. Which of these 4 types mirrors you the most? Comment below. This isn't just sharing. It's a way to find the rare few who walk through life carrying the same dangerous yet extraordinary gift. When you start seeing what others don't want to see, the first reaction that shows up is brutal. They turn you into the villain of the story. You point out the obvious and hear things like, "You're negative. You're creating drama. It's all in your head." What you notice is real, but their reaction makes you question yourself. Over time, you start wondering, am I the problem? And that doubt eats away at your identity, because what's yours gets tangled with what you absorb. That's the poison of blame shifting. You don't invent the fire, you smell the smoke before anyone else does. But because you're the first to notice, you get treated like the arsonist. That chips away at your confidence and keeps you on constant defense. You see the cracks, but you're forced to carry the label of troublemaker. It's like being punished for having a sixth sense only you can use. Few people understand the loneliness of living with sight others refuse to admit exists. The second cost is social isolation. Little by little, you notice groups starting to avoid you. Family, friends, coworkers. Everyone seems to prefer your absence. Not because you're unsociable, but because your presence exposes what they'd rather hide. You threaten the silent pact of, let's all pretend everything's fine. So, they label you as difficult. What hurts isn't being alone. It's realizing no one can stand the truth you carry. And then comes an even crueler pain. Feeling porous. You go to a meeting, a dinner, a party, and you come back home drained, as if you'd lived 10 lives in one night. Energy that wasn't yours sticks to you and mixes with your own. Afterward, it's hard to tell. What's mine? What did I absorb from others? This identity confusion creates a fatigue no amount of sleep can fix. It's an exhaustion that eats you from the inside out. The third hidden cost is emotional overload. Your body pays the price. Insomnia, random aches, anxiety attacks with no clear cause. You're like an oversensitive smoke detector that goes off at the slightest spark. The problem? Nobody thanks you for it. On the contrary, they call you exaggerated. While they pretend there's no danger, you already feel the smoke burning in your lungs. That's where the fear of collapse is born. The chilling thought that one day your mind won't be able to take it anymore. And if you've seen yourself in this so far, I want you to do something right now. Hit the like button, subscribe, and comment which country you're watching from, and tell me what topics you want in the next videos. That's how you show you're not alone, that there are others carrying this same invisible weight. Because these three costs aren't just obstacles. They're signs that your rare perception needs to be integrated before it ends up destroying you. After carrying the weight of blame, isolation, and overload, there's an even more invisible cost, and that's exactly why it's more dangerous. Identity confusion. You feel so much of other people that, at certain moments, you don't even know where you end and where the environment begins. It's like living in a constant state of hypervigilance, unable to relax. This exhaustion isn't just physical. It chips away at your essence until you start asking yourself if there's still an authentic you left inside. And the scariest part is when that doubt grows. You think, is this sadness mine? Or is it just a reflection of someone next to me? Did this anxiety come from me? Or was it planted in me without me noticing? That same confusion, repeated day after day, creates the feeling of being inhabited by voices that aren't yours. Your psychic boundary dissolves, and with it, your sense of stability. That's the moment when the real fear of losing your mind appears, the fear that one day, your mind won't be able to carry the weight of what you've absorbed. Another dark price is what I call the prophet's inflation. When you catch patterns too early, you may cling to the idea that you see everything. That attachment gives you a dangerous sense of superiority, but at the same time pushes you away from ordinary humanity. You become the one who points, judges, moralizes, and people start avoiding you even more. It's a prison disguised as power. The more you see, the lonelier you get, as if punished by your own clairvoyance. Maybe you've lived through this. Instead of holding back what you notice, you blurt it out immediately, like a verdict. And the reaction comes like a wall. People accuse you of exaggerating, judging, creating drama. To break this cycle, there's a practical way out. Write down what you notice, but wait 48 hours. If it still makes sense and there's an opening, turn it into a question, not a sentence. That simple pause can save your reputation and keep your vision from becoming an even heavier burden. The third hidden cost is sabotage in career and relationships. You see things too soon and end up paying the price for ruining the mood. Maybe you've pointed out a flaw in a project and got labeled pessimistic, or predicted the end of a relationship and got told you're the one attracting bad things. The paradox is cruel. You're right, but too early. And instead of recognition, you get punishment. It's as if your ability to foresee the future turns into a sentence of exclusion. These costs aren't small details. They're deep marks that shape your life. And when you ignore them, the risk of collapse only grows. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. There's a way to turn this burden into a tool. But to do that, you need to understand the next step. the one that separates those who are destroyed by their own vision from those who manage to convert it into strategic strength. And that's exactly what we're about to dive into next. After understanding the prices you've been paying, the inevitable question comes up. How do you turn that weight into strength? Because it's not enough to just recognize the burden. You need a clear path to integrate it, step by step. And this path doesn't begin with big philosophical revelations, but with something way more practical: triage. Without clarity on where you're starting, you'll never know if you're moving forward or just spinning in circles. The first phase is what I call Phase 0 triage. Grab a pen and paper and, in less than 15 minutes today, rate yourself from 0 to 10 in 4 areas. Social exhaustion, confusion between what's yours and what belongs to others, conflicts after speaking truths, and symptoms like insomnia or body aches. This initial map won't solve the problem, but it shows you where the pain is sharpest. It's the diagnosis that lets you choose where to begin. Next, make a simple list: 3 environments or people that drain your energy the most. This isn't about judgment, it's about spotting patterns. Who are the ones that leave you empty just by being around? This exercise creates awareness, because many times you feel the effect but don't name the source. Once you put it on paper, you realize it's not random, there's repetition. And wherever there's repetition, there's a point of intervention. The last step of triage is setting a goal for the next 30 days. Be specific. For example, lowering your post-meeting exhaustion from an 8 to a 4. This kind of goal gives direction and prevents that crushing feeling that nothing ever changes. You don't need to take on the whole world at once. What you need are small but consistent wins that restore your confidence that living with clarity, without being crushed by your own perception, is possible. Phase 1 is somatic stabilization, the physiological base that supports everything else. Just 5 minutes of breathing or meditation a day makes a difference. Any kind of regular physical activity helps. The best workout isn't the perfect one, it's the one you'll actually do. And practice sensory hygiene. Turn off notifications at night. Use noise-canceling headphones when needed. These small tweaks reduce the world's noise before it drowns you. The sign of progress here is simple: being able to get back to your center in less than 20 minutes after tough encounters. Before, you'd spend hours ruminating. Now you learn how to switch off faster. It's like adjusting a volume knob. First you lower the outside noise, only then can you start arranging the music inside. And it's exactly on this base of stability that you can move toward the deeper stages of integration. When you start separating what you feel, you realize you weren't crazy or making things up. There's a clear explanation, and it's called self versus non-self discrimination, Phase 2 of the path. You spend 20 minutes journaling in 2 columns. In the first, write what's yours. In the second, what seems to have come from the environment. Always ask yourself, did this start in me? Or did it show up after meeting this person or being in that situation? That simple step validates your experience. It's not imagination, it's rare perception. Over time, you notice something curious. Your mind feels lighter because you're not mixing everything together anymore. It's like finally having an inner map to organize yourself. To reinforce it, use a physical anchor. Place your hand on your chest or your stomach, naming 3 sensations that belong only to you. This practice gives a concrete label to your experience. The sign of progress? Less overthinking and sharper language. You start saying, "This is mine," or "This came from someone else." It may sound small, but it changes your clarity completely. Phase 3 is learning boundaries and consent, and here's the reframe: you're not an intruder for noticing too much, but you need to choose how and when to share. Before offering an insight, ask, "Can I share a perception with you?" That pause puts you in control. And instead of speaking like a prophet handing out verdicts, turn it into a question. Does it make sense when I say that? You're still using your gift, but now as an invitation, not an imposition. That shift builds connection, not resistance. And here's a rule that can save a lot of your relationships. 80/20. Share only 20% of what you perceive, keeping the rest for when there's space or real need. This isn't repression, it's strategy. After all, not everything needs to be said, only what truly matters. The sign of progress is clear. Less defensiveness from others, more openness in conversations. You're no longer the difficult one, but someone who speaks at the right time, with wisdom and impact. Phase 4 introduces an essential element: human containers. You don't have to carry everything alone. Choose 1 or 2 trusted people, or set up bi-weekly rituals of 45 to 60 minutes to refine your perceptions. It could be a conscious friend, a therapist, or a select group. This space works like a filter. You unload, organize, and turn raw weight into refined clarity. Belonging starts here when you realize there really are the few who get it. And the sign is immediate. You walk away from these conversations lighter than when you entered. Not because you dumped everything out, but because you learned how to transform a curse into strategy. First, you reduced the world's noise. Now you've learned how to name, choose, and place things where they belong. And the question that lingers is this: if these steps already change your experience so much, what happens when you integrate the next phases and discover how far this gift can really take you? Up to this point, you've learned how to filter, name, and share more consciously. But there's an inevitable step: facing your own shadow. This is phase 5, deflating the prophet. Do a simple inventory. Write down 3 people who irritate you the most and the specific trait that triggers you. Then ask the key question: where does this trait live in me, even in microdose? That reframe changes everything, because it brings back self-responsibility that used to get lost in automatic judgment. You start noticing that many times what you condemn most in others also exists in you on a smaller scale. Once you recognize it, the irritation loses its grip. And instead of preaching, you take a minimal integrative action. Adjust something in yourself. For example, instead of accusing someone of being irresponsible, you commit to a small daily discipline. The sign of progress here is clear: less instant judgment, more curiosity about yourself and about others. Phase 6 is conscious participation, using your gift without getting lost in it. Here comes an essential rule: time and dose. Set specific windows to see and limit yourself to 1 final insight per meeting. That prevents overload and protects your energy. Context matters too. Share where there's genuine openness, like in mentorship or with a mature team, not in every shallow conversation. You decide where to spend your radar instead of living enslaved by it. Another tool is the creative valve. Twice a week, turn the excess into expression. Write, draw, compose, paint, sing. The form doesn't matter, the release does. This space works like an artistic filter to metabolize what would otherwise be raw weight. The sign of progress here is powerful. You choose when and how much to see. The gift stops being uncontrollable noise and becomes a resource you switch on and off consciously. Finally, phase 7, maintenance and relapse. This process isn't linear, it's a living cycle. Do a simple monthly check. Where did I overdo it? Which environment do I need to pause? What practice did I drop and need to pick back up? This monitoring keeps you from getting lost again. Here, consistency matters more than perfection. You learn to deal with setbacks without guilt, just by adjusting your path and moving forward. And small wins show you it's working. For example, when you start asking, "Do you want me to share a reading? Or do you just want to vent?" your relationships shift instantly. Others react more softly because you're no longer forcing your vision. You're offering it with respect. The sign is clear: fewer conflicts, more connection. And that's the point where you realize integration isn't about taming your gift. It's about turning it into a force that sustains your entire life. Seeing too much is not a curse. It's a gift that demands conscious integration. The danger was never in your perception itself, but in living without a mature relationship to it. When you learn to hold this sensitivity instead of letting it hold you, what once drained you becomes the very source of clarity and strength. That's where individuation comes in, the daily solitude to reset your mind, the safe containers where your perceptions can be refined, the limits that protect your energy, the shadow work that keeps you grounded, and the creative expression that transforms overload into meaning. These aren't luxuries. They're your survival tools, your map to use your gift without being consumed by it, because people like you aren't here to blend in. Hyperperceptive individuals are bridges between the conscious and the unconscious. When integrated, you become cultural medicine, someone who brings truth into the room without bleeding out for it. You serve without sacrificing, and that is the mark of true mastery. And you don't have to do it alone. The few who carry this gift are scattered, but they exist. Seek them out. Look for the ones who understand depth without defensiveness, who can walk with you without demanding you shut your eyes. That belonging is rare, but it changes everything when you find it. So take this knowledge seriously. Apply it. Protect your gift, or it will turn against you. Cultivate it, and it will turn into your greatest weapon and your greatest peace. The choice now is yours. If this spoke to you, like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. And before you leave, stay with me and watch the next video waiting for you here. It will take this journey even further.